It's The Local Show on News Radio 570 WSYR, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Gettys Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show is locally produced by Zoe Advertising. Now, your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back and welcome in. This is hour number 2 of The Local Show. Get ready for some engaging interviews with Greg Lancette. He's the president at New York State Pipe Trade Association and a bunch of other things. So I will go through that when we start talking to him. Charlie Van Patten stops by. He's the owner of Mattress Makers. Natasha Schmidt, co-owner of Rubber Stone New York. And then Dr. Tina Chi is the owner of Up Design Primary Care. We're broadcasting from the Zoe Advertising Studios, sponsored by Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Gettys Federal Savings and Loan. You all strapped in for hour number 2, Steve?
How'd you know they used to strap me in, Tom, when I was a kid?
Well,
how did you know that?
I talked to Dr. Chi, who is your primary now.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. I want to get more scoop on you.
It always surprises people when I say that. Not at all.
You're putting your Ritalin in your coffee, so she probably prescribed
whatever it takes
to keep you focused, right? All right, here's a man who's been focused on a lot of things and obviously very popular because he's got some big titles. It's Greg Lancette. So, Greg, I have you down as president of the Central Northern New York Building and Construction Trades Council.
Yeah, that's a mouthful, Tom.
Yeah,
holy smokes.
Golly, I'm going to have to get
really
overtime.
important.
Yeah. Well, you look fit and in shape and all that. What's your background? What's your professional and educational background?
So by trade, a year out of high school, I applied and I was accepted into the Plumbers and Steam Fitters Apprenticeship Program.
Gotcha.
And, I had a couple of crappier jobs, in between.
You worked in broadcasting.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's pretty crappy.
Yeah, so I went in.
Were you a local guy?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
What
grew
high
up in
school?
Syracuse. I graduated from Henniger High. I went to Lemoyne, Grant, and Henniger.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so I got into the 5-year program, and it's really a earn while you learn scenario.
Nice.
I'm not sure how familiar you are with the apprenticeship programs, but so you work for one of the employers on the daytime. You go to the construction site that you're assigned to.
Sure.
Work for the employer, and then 2 nights a week we have to go to school. It used to be 5 to 9 p.m.
Wow.
Back in the day, and you do that for 5 years.
Oh, golly. Yeah, it's a long time.
You must be really smart when that's over with.
No, we're really tired. One or the other.
Well, I was an apprentice electrician. I quit school for a while, and because my grandfather, being full Italian, he came over from Italy, and he was in the electrical trades. And I always wanted to do that, but I also wanted to be in broadcasting. So to my parents' chagrin, I left college, and I said, I'm going to go, be an electrician. So I teamed up with Jerry Petruno. Did you know Petruno Electric?
Petruno Electric, yeah. I know
Dave
who they
Petruno,
are. Yep.
Yeah, so I was an apprentice there. And let me tell you something. I learned really quickly it's too difficult for me.
Oh, wow.
It's very hard. This is not easy work. But once you get involved and you do well, you can do well financially and, educationally and all that. So it seems like what are the steam fitters? What do they do?
So
pipes and steams.
Pipe fitters and steam fitters, besides, boilers and chillers, they provide a lot of the process piping and manufacturing.
Okay.
For instance, like brewing, there's miles and miles of stainless steel piping.
Good golly.
Yeah, and depending on the client or the project, it's actually a very high degree of specialization required to do it.
So the apprenticeship program, does that exist in all the trades locally?
It does.
So explain the trades that folks could be, if they were looking, if they had a son or a daughter or a grandchild that was like looking to become a tradesman, what's out there? What could they do?
Oh, there's so many opportunities, starting, in the front end of a construction project with the site work, the operating engineers, and then the structural crew comes in, and that's like the iron workers, the carpenters, the laborers are doing all the concrete forming and pouring and all of that to get the shell up. And then the shell is built and the roofers come in, of course. If it has elevators, the elevators are going in, the electrical services, the plumbing services. and even the fire protection.
The system that you went through where you were an apprentice, does that still exist?
It does.
Explain
it
to folks. Yeah.
So, like I stated, that little catchphrase, it's the earn while you learn type model.
Yeah.
What it is the interview process, regardless of what trade or craft you're interested in, it actually starts with a simple application. You apply and ask to be considered. You go through an interview process, and it's a sponsored apprenticeship program by the New York State Department of Labor. So if you get accepted into the program, you're actually indentured for the period of time of your apprenticeship.
It's almost like getting into the military there.
Right. Or the
very
nursing
similar.
schools that pay for that, and then folks become nurses.
Do you get benefits and everything? State benefits?
You do. We don't get state benefits because we're actually, most of our book of business is actually private industry. There is a public component to it. But yeah, we all provide levels of benefit, health insurance, retirement funds, training opportunities that continue throughout your career.
So this isn't just plumbers and steam fitters. This would be electricians and carpenters and other
everybody,
trades, right?
all the trades, skilled
exactly,
trades.
all of the above. Skilled trades, yes.
Can you make an average living, above average living, working in the trades today? In other words, it's not just they talk about people swinging a hammer or being a plumber or something like that, and you just live to a certain level and you got just a small cape and that's all you can afford. That's not necessarily the case, right? I mean, you can make above average.
Yeah. This industry, it really is proportionate to the effort that you put into it.
Okay.
If you're willing to step up and get educated on a lot of the newer techniques and methods using the materials that are being developed.
Right.
You can make a very good living in Central New York.
Master electrician, master plumber, you can make six figures, right?
Oh, easily. Yeah. The average member makes six figures between wage and benefits, between the retirements and the health benefit.
So Micron's coming. Did that change the game at all?
I've heard of that.
Is that a game changer for you?
Yeah. Micron is that's an opportunity that's coming to our community that really hasn't been here since post World War II.
Right.
It really has. We live in a community that for decades has been slowly decimated.
Yes.
One factory at a time or any of that. And Micron is actually a true fit for Central New York because of the generational manufacturing and the blue collar workforce that we have here.
Right. Well, and of course, things are going to have to be constructed. New restaurants, new buildings, new housing has to be, so there's going to be room for everybody.
Tom, you're spot on because everybody's focusing on the $100 billion, the 20-year commitment that Micron had pledged there. But that 100, it's huge. That's a very large amount of money in a capital investment.
Sure.
But what we as a community are not looking at yet, there are sectors looking at it as growth opportunity. But that spin up that's going to come to supply Micron, whether it's materials or services. And we're also going to have tens of thousands of people in our community that now have viable money again, where they're going to want.
Right. So what I hear you saying, I think, is that people can get trained through the trades.
The trades.
And now's the time because this thing's coming. And we haven't seen it in forever. So how do they get involved? How do we tell folks to get involved, to get in the training process? Where do they go? Who do they contact? How's that work?
Well, if you live in the city of Syracuse, there is a Pathways to Prosperity program that's there, and that's for underserved and underrepresented members of our community. It's a program that's a few years old that's already graduated a few classes. The Building Trades Council, we got with a lot of the community partners, and that was with the anticipation to go to work on the replacement of I-81.
Right. So what if they're not there? Briefly, how do they get involved?
CNNYBCTC.org. Did I say it right?
CNNYBTC.org. There's jobs. There's they can get information and get engaged there, right?
Yes.
They sure can.
Everybody but Steve, because he can't even swing a hammer properly.
It's true. It's true.
Well, look, hey, Greg, we could have you on again because this is very interesting stuff. Greg Lancette right there, president of the Central Northern New York Building and Construction Trades Council. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Have a great rest of the day. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Charlie Van Patten. He's the owner of Mattress Makers right here on The Local Show on 570 WSYR.